Does that mean go? Welcome to Nonprofit Insider. My name is David Unger, and I'm pleased to be hosting a show with the executive directors and key people of local nonprofits. I've worked in the nonprofit world for over 30 years. In those years, I've realized that the majority of the community does not know about the organizations that provide critical services and benefits to our community. These services and benefits we sometimes take for granted. Nonprofit Insider is a chance to hear about the organizations that touch so many in our community. The opinions expressed on Nonprofit Insider are not necessarily those of WMPG, its staff and underwriters, or of USM. We do need to state that today's show is recorded. I will be out of town the week that this show will be aired. And I want to give a special shout out to Frankie. Frankie's growing well in Boston, and everybody is doing fine. Today, I'd like to welcome Tom Handel. Tom is the Executive Director of Community Television Network. Hi, Tom.
Hi, thanks for having me here.
Our pleasure. Welcome. Is it a little strange just talking into a microphone without lights and cameras all over the place?
Yeah, it's definitely a different environment than our studio. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about scratching my eye or doing anything else like that.
And you got all dressed up for this. Then you did realize this is radio, right?
Yeah.
So, how would you describe Community Television Network?
Well, we are the public access station for the city of Portland on Channel 2. And then we have a regional television station, Channel 5, on the Time Warner system that goes from Casco, Gray, New Gloucester down to Scarborough. And that is a station that was started by nonprofits for nonprofits, but we sort of expanded out to be more of a community network. But our facility itself is a community media center where we teach people how to use cameras, how to use our studio, how to use editing systems so that they can exercise their free speech and put programming on the air and online.
So, would you say it's similar to WMPG?
Yes, it's definitely it's a community communications think tank in a way. We have people coming in to do all sorts of different types of programming in the arts, political, a lot of different kind of creative projects that people do, and they network with one another there. I think much the same as they do here.
Great. What do you see some of the significant issues that CTN is facing?
Well, the one of the challenges that comes up for a public access station is to really let people know that they're there. A lot of people don't quite understand that this is an extension of free speech. And recently we did a strategic plan at CTN, and I called a number of other access stations in the Northeast to see what was happening with them. And even some that are really well used say that often, very often, almost every day, people come in and say, gee, I never knew you were here. I never knew I could come in, take classes, pick up a camera, make a video and put it on the air, put it online, get people to see it. So that has been an issue right along. Now with the increasing popularity of watching your media online, we've also expanded online, and people need to understand that we're not just a public access station on a cable channel. We're also an online station, and we have over 5,000 videos on our website that it can be viewed on demand at any time.
Wow. Now, when we were doing our pre-show discussion to kind of get to know each other a little bit, you had mentioned something. I asked you about the size of your budget, and you mentioned a very interesting statistic to me about most community access television stations' budgets are decreasing.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it's kind of interesting that we're here at USM because a USM marketing class is doing a marketing research project for us this semester. And they did some background data on public access stations throughout the country and found that in the last 10 years, since 2005, public access stations' revenue has decreased by 40%. We've seen some of that, but not quite that much, maybe 10%. But one of the things that it points up is that people have a sort of misconception about what they can do at a public access station. They have cameras on their phones, and they feel like they can take a video on their phone and then post it online either through Vimeo or YouTube. But there's so much more that goes on at a public access station than just getting your stuff on the air, and there's a lot of networking that happens. There's a lot of people meeting each other and forming collaborations and doing projects together. And we actually teach classes. We help people make a quality video rather than something that's handheld with a phone.
Now, are you on air 24/7?
Channel 5 is. Channel 5 is on air 24/7 with programming, actual programming. Channel 2, which is the public access station, has a community bulletin board in between programs, and we have programs programmed every hour on the hour on Channel 2. So that if it's a 15-minute program, then 45 minutes of it is bulletin board. But on channel 5, we have a 24-hour nonstop programming. It. We try to download programs from other public access stations and make our programming available to other public access stations in the state, so that a lot of the program that we have is original local programming, local to Maine.
What is the difference between community access and public broadcasting?
Oh, it's a huge difference. I mean, it's public TV is called the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. It's a corporation. Its funding streams are different. We exist, CTN specifically exists through about a third of our revenue comes from the municipality. Some of it comes from Time Warner, and then we raise the rest of the money ourselves. So about half of our budget we raise.
So you have to raise about $150,000 each year.
Yeah, a little less than that, but we do it. We also, offer people the opportunity on our station because we were sort of created this way. CTN was created by USM, the City of Portland, and Maine Medical Center to provide low-cost video production services to nonprofits in the greater Portland area, and to also run the public access station for the City of Portland. So if a nonprofit or a community member wants to do a community-oriented program, they could pay us to do that. So that's some of our revenue. We also have a membership system for nonprofits. We have about 80 nonprofit members right now, and when they become a member, we cover their events. We go down and do news stories on their events to run between our programs. We do interviews in our studio that run between programs if there's an event coming up that people want to know about.
Time out here a second. I've been in town for almost 20 years and in the nonprofit world, and this is the first time I've heard of this.
Yes. And you just told me about the nonprofit that you're involved with, and it was the first time I heard of that. Maine has a rich nonprofit community. There's a lot of nonprofits.
So as a nonprofit exec, I can give you a call, or anybody on staff.
Yep.
And for $80 a year, which is basically a membership fee.
Our membership fees run between $125 a year and $500 a year, depending on the size of your budget.
Okay. So we negotiate a membership fee based on the size of the budget.
Right.
And then we have television coverage.
Yes. You can call us and say, we're doing this event in Monument Square. Come down and cover it, and we'll send a person come down, do interviews, take footage, go back, do a news story, and not only air it on our station, but upload it to YouTube, and then send you the link where you can embed that video on your website.
That is really great. I did not know that.
Yeah. and that's actually when we started providing benefits like that to our nonprofit members, our membership just exploded.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah. So getting it's the same thing as with the public access station and people coming in to use the equipment and make their own videos. Not a lot of people know that they can do that. Not a lot of nonprofits know that they can do that. Our station has PSAs that we air about ourselves and what we do. So, getting the word out and opportunities like this are fantastic.
Right, and to have the availability of it on YouTube is just incredible in itself, because then it's archived forever.
Right, and you can access it and put it wherever. You could put it on your Facebook page, you could put it on your website. And
I'm thinking about for fundraising purposes, when you put in a grant, you put in a hyperlink into the grant, and they could see the actual event that you're talking about.
Oh, yeah, because video, it tells a big story.
It's huge.
Yes.
It's huge. So what are some of the issues that you're facing that you would think would be similar to other nonprofits?
Well, it's interesting you ask that, because we deal with obviously if we have 80 nonprofit members, we interface with them a lot. And the issues that we face are the same as everyone else's, competition for grant money, competition for donors, and that sort of thing. But there's a lot of common ground in what we do with our nonprofits. we can collaborate on shows. We can bring a bunch of nonprofits around the same issue and do grants together. We did a short series on parenting with a group of nonprofits that were involved in family and children's services. So there's our station and our nonprofit in a way has built-in ability to provide collaborations that in other for other nonprofits it's a little harder, and that helps a lot to overcome some of the challenges we face with the financial situations that we're all facing when money gets tight.
Right. Do you use volunteers like WMPG to staff your station, or how does that work?
Oh, yeah, we have a volunteer coordinator, and some years it vacillates between 60 and 80 volunteers that we use over the course of a year, in addition to the people who come in and take our classes and on their own make their own television programs.
Now, my son used to be in video production, and this is really intense stuff. It changes on a daily basis with the technology.
Yes, yes.
So I won't mention any ages, but you did say you've been in this field for over 20 years, right?
Right. I've been involved with public access, and before I came to Maine and actually first got involved in social services, which we were talking about earlier, I went to Columbia for my master's in film and video. And we worked on a totally different set of systems for editing and all that. It's evolved so much since then.
Do you think it's lost some of its technical, the technical piece of it that made video what it was?
No, I don't think so. I think there's, with the technology that there's now, there's so much more possibilities. It's so much easier to do things, and it fosters more creativity. One thing that I think that is just kind of interesting about public access television and what we do, we're almost an anti-television station, because we're about community building, and we like to show what's going on in the community and what's happening in the community so people can get more involved with the community. But it seems like television in itself was a way for people to start to digitize out, to virtually start to live. So now people are virtually living more on the cell phones. You go to a cafe where people used to meet and talk to one another, and now you walk into a cafe and they're either on their laptop or on their cell phone, and very few people are talking to one another.
Right.
So public access is really, when people we get people together to create this sort of thing, and then show back to the community what they're doing, and hopefully engender more community activity, build more community activity through that back and forth, that interactivity that YouTube doesn't allow for, or Vimeo doesn't allow for, or other forms of communication don't allow for. That's the one thing about the technology that we're trying to take and use more to make that human connection rather than separate people.
Right. So I'm going to go to our infamous trivia question of the day.
I knew it was coming.
Yeah, you listened, and okay, this one is actually related to what you do. It wasn't like last week's, or 2 weeks ago. And Deb has a track record of about 10% correct. Okay, but when she gets it right, she lets everybody know. So the trivia question is, what we'll do is ask the question. I'll go to my midpoint identifier, and then we'll come back and hear your answer. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. What year was the first experiment with community television? Oh, no. Look at the look on his face, Deb. All right. So this is Nonprofit Insider on WMPG, listener-supported radio at 90.9 and 104.1 FM, community radio of Southern Maine and Eastern New Hampshire. Today we have Tom Handel, Executive Director of Community Television Network, and we're really going to embarrass him right now because he does not know the trivia question. The question was, what year was the first experiment with community television?
For some reason, I want to go back to the 1950s, but the number 1968 flashes my head.
Good one. The first experiments in public access television and or non-commercial community television began in 1968 with Dale City, Virginia's Dale City Television, DCTV, and 1970 with Bob and Janine Burrell at Stoughton, Wisconsin's WSTO-TV.
Whenever since I heard that last show that you did, or the one that within Ethan Strimling, and I
Yes.
heard the trivia question, I started reading and seeing things, and I would have answered in the 50s, but there was something that said 1968. That was something I read in the last 24 hours.
There you go. So you got it. You win the prize.
Oh, excellent. What's the prize?
I don't know. Do we have a prize?
How about this glass of water?
Oh, we'll see if we have a T-shirt around. Okay. All right. So let's get back to the serious stuff here, as if the show is ever serious. So you've been involved in community television for how many years?
Well, I first got involved in 1989. I directed a play, Grease,
Okay.
as a fundraiser for the nonprofit that I was working for at the time, and was looking for someone to, if anybody had the editing systems that I used at Columbia. And I did find the person, and he had editing systems in his basement, and he was president of the local public access station. So that was 1989, 88, somewhere around there.
So you've been involved in community television for a couple of years.
Yeah, he got me to join the board, and that was the volunteer-run public access station. Started doing a live call-in show about local issues, and then we morphed over. My family, with my wife and my 3 kids and some friends, did a sketch comedy show, an hour-long sketch comedy show for 18 months. We did 11 episodes.
Oh, what was your aha moment? What moment in your entire career just kind of sat you back and said, aha?
Well, I have to say, in terms of public access and free speech, one of the things that I will always remember, and just it really went off, is we had a couple of producers back when I first started in the late 90s who really pushed the envelope and did some things on the air that were very denigrating to the staff, denigrating to public officials. And the city of Portland backed them up. And even though they were being attacked, they backed up their right to free speech. At first there was some, like, a lot of eyebrows went up, and a lot of the things they did were very questionable. But in the end, we always supported the people who spoke their mind. Our station is about free speech and letting people say what they will. And even if they're attacking us, we'll stand up for them. And that was sort of, to me, that's what we're all about. From then on, oddly enough, through the 2000s and now, people have done very, very creative and constructive and engaging videos. It isn't so much, testing the waters anymore, but still the ability to be able to get on the air yourself in your own community and speak your mind and have the opposite opinion expressed as well is something precious and dear that I think people take for granted. And back then it all kind of clicked for me.
So one of the differences, I'm guessing, between WMPG and community television is we're live almost 24/7, and you're not.
No.
So is there any, censoring is the wrong word, but is there any review of the materials before it goes on air? How do you say what's appropriate on air and what's not?
Well, for public access stations, there's no censoring. There's no censoring of content.
And censoring might have been the wrong word.
Well, that's the word we use.
Okay.
Because we don't allow commercial content, and we don't allow people to use copyrighted material that they don't have the rights to. Those are just laws. That's just a given. But beyond that, people can say and do anything they want to do. Now, we do require them that if they do have content that's either graphically violent or bad language or sexual in any nature, we need to know about that and schedule at a time when children wouldn't be likely to watch it.
Okay.
But other than that, there are obscenity laws, but those are for the courts to adjudicate. We don't do that. We don't censor. Because if we did, there would be. Now, that's for Channel 2, and then that's the public access station part of what we do. Channel 5 is a station that is used by the nonprofits. And so we can decide what goes on that station.
Editing was the word I was looking for.
Oh, editing. Oh, well.
Edit, you know.
Well, when we use the word editing, we actually sit down and take a long time to put things together.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Which because we wouldn't do that. If a program was like, if we were going to put something on Channel 5, let's say, and we liked it all except certain parts of it, we wouldn't take it and edit it. We would give it back to the producer and say, if you want this to air on Channel 5, these are the things that we'd like to see changed. But for that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. Those things go on Channel 2, and they have their right to share with the community whatever they feel.
What was one of the hardest things or a series of hard things that you had as an executive director that you've had to face?
Well,
where do we start,
well,
right?
Yeah, right. When you ask about executive director, because you've been an executive director yourself, I mean, there are the financial challenges, and there are the personnel challenges. Running an organization in and of itself is difficult. A lot of public access stations are usually run by the municipalities, and the people who manage those are city employees. They don't have to look for money. But I think it harkens right back to the point that I was making about those when we had producers who were pushing the envelope, antagonizing staff, and trying to mediate between what was fair to the employees and what was a right to free speech was a difficult time period. In fact, at that point, I don't know if anybody remembers, but there was the Casco Bay Weekly.
Right.
And then a columnist in the Portland Press Herald wrote an article about what I was doing with these particular producers, and one was totally against what I did, and one was totally for I did. It was like, okay, I guess I'm doing the right thing.
Everybody's angry at you.
Yeah, everybody doesn't like me. But that's sort of the difficulty of it is, how much do you protect and how much freedom do you give? And that's a judgment call, but it also can be challenged by the court. So that's sort of a difficult kind of thing to face.
All right. So I get into an elevator with you. Hopefully one of the major philanthropists in the state. The doors close. You have 30 seconds. Why would I want to give to Community Television Network?
To protect your right to free speech, to allow the community to engage with itself in a medium that reaches so many people in so many different ways, online, on their television set, and to become more of a community, to build community through media.
All right. Do you have any questions for me?
Well, why did you start to do this show?
I really love the nonprofit world. And, as I said in my opening shtick, I don't think enough people know about the nonprofits that are out there. And Maine is so rich with the nonprofit community. There's so many organizations helping so many people in so many different ways. And it just felt right to give, I've been in the field for a long time, and I just wanted to give back and share with the community what this is all about.
So before you started doing this show, did you ever think of using public access television as a way to get people to know
I
more
didn't
about
know
nonprofits?
that we had that option.
You mean you never heard of public access before?
I've heard of public access, but I did not know.
What was your impression of public access then?
It was a very closed network, and I didn't really understand how it works.
That's an interesting thing, because public access is very descriptive of what it is, but it does escape me too. Hearing public access doesn't automatically mean to me that it's publicly accessible to anyone. Public
Right.
means to anyone. So in a way, it's telling you that, but it does seem like, oh, those are those people over there, or that's another group.
Right.
When actually what it needs to be is everybody engaged from all different sectors.
Absolutely.
You know?
And, I listen to WMPG in my office all the time. And so when I heard about being a listener rep on the board, that's where I applied. And as I got onto the board, it gave me a whole different perspective of what community radio is. So I can only imagine what it's like at the television or the video level.
WMPG is...
Can I move my show over there? Do you think we can do that?
You could. They'll let you. But we've televised WMPG shows before.
I know.
And we've done some things collaboratively. I think that these kinds of media that the community can access really quickly need to be much better used, especially by the nonprofit sector. So every time you have somebody on the show, not only will they be finding out about WMBG, but you could also let them know about public access and what they can do on there.
My pleasure. I'm more than happy to do that. So I think we're winding down at this point. And if someone wanted to contact you and make a donation, how would they do that?
They could just mail a check to
Mail that check.
CTN5 at 516 Congress Street, Portland, Maine 04101, or you could use that address, 516 Congress Street, to walk in and talk to me, get a tour. We give free tours of the station. We're open now in the evening on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays to 8 o'clock. That's a new thing, so that more people can take classes after work, do productions after work.
Great. Well, Tom, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
This half an hour flew by.
It really did.
Next week, we have Virginia I'm going to mess this one up. I apologize. Valenzuela, Executive Director of the Multilingual and Cultural Center. The music appears by courtesy of Mike Hubbard. You can find Mike's music on www.michaelhubbardmusic.com. Check out Mike's website to see where he's playing this weekend. Thanks to Deb Danger, NPI's executive engineer. You can catch Deb on Morning Street Fridays at 6:30. If you know of a nonprofit that should be on the show, please go to my Facebook page, Nonprofit Insider on Facebook. And past shows are archived at www.tcmgr.com, Nonprofit Insider tab. Until next week, have a good one.